All right. Well, let's get started then. Hello, welcome to our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM live demo webinar. I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing for Security Solutions here at Sumo Logic. As a matter of quick housekeeping, this live webinar is being recorded. I'll take some time at the end for any questions that you may have. Just feel free to type it into the Q&A button in your webinar window there and jot down your question. We'll try to get to many of them as we can. We've allotted 30 minutes, and I want to ensure that I can get you folks on to your next meeting on time. So with that, let's jump into it. Let me begin with a quick overview of who we are. We are Sumo Logic. We've built a continuous intelligence platform for observability and for security, which is analyzing an exabyte of data every single day by more than 100,000 users across the globe, across 2,300 different customers. We're really excited that we were recently, just a couple months ago, listed as Partner of the Year, ISV Partner of the Year by AWS Partner Network. So that's a wonderful accomplishment. We look forward to some wonderful things now in this next year here, 2022. Again, if you have any questions, folks, go ahead and ask them along the way. I'll assume that there's a certain level of knowledge that you folks might have about Sumo. I'll assume that you might not have any knowledge of our Cloud SIEM solution, which is why you're here. So speaking of which, using this continuous intelligence platform, we offer this broad range here of security solutions from the left-hand side for audit and compliance, all the way over to our cloud source solution. And today I'm zeroing in and focusing on our Cloud SIEM solution, which includes our core platform and our Cloud SIEM Enterprise add-on module. Now you can check out the Sumo Logic website webinar page if you want to register for any one of our other live demos, which we host each and every single month. Now, some of the common challenges for security analysts I wanted to articulate here, because we never quite know, like, if we're talking to existing customers who already use Sumo Logic for observability, or maybe some of you folks are hearing about Sumo Logic and our security offerings for the first time. So just want to level set, and really we look at the SIEM challenges that we hear from organizations and customers kind of fall into these three buckets: blind spots, manual workflows, and alert fatigue. So under blind spots, digital transformation and the recent growth in organizations that have been, hurrying up and migrating to the cloud, it's created new challenges with these security blind spots. And legacy security tools and SIEMs weren't built for the cloud. And this has resulted in more threat visibility gaps than ever before. And speaking of existing security tools, many SOC teams are tired of the slow, inefficient, manual workflows that you've been having to endure. And with the recent shifts in that threat landscape I mentioned, and new attack surfaces with cloud adoption, security analysts, you yourselves, you need help with speeding up investigation and response times. And then finally on the right, another top challenge here is the security teams are spending just way too much time and resources on chasing low priority security alerts and false positives as well. All of these increasing alerts and noise, it's continued to burn out team members, we realize, with alert fatigue. And this has made it clear to CISOs and SOC directors that this is no longer a human scale problem, because you simply can't hire your way out of the situation. So our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM solution, which you're here today to learn about, well, this is it. We offer easy to use cloud native collection and threat detection for security professionals. We help your SOC team eliminate security blind spots by correlating threats across all of your on-prem, your public cloud, multi-cloud, and hybrid environments. And we're also able to help you speed up your threat investigations and combat lost time that you've spent due to manual workflows with your legacy tools. And finally, we help customers cut through the noise by automatically triaging and prioritizing the security threats that matter most to your SOC and to your organization. And for that whole cutting through the noise benefit, let me drill further down into the alert fatigue challenge and put some numbers to it while I explain really what makes our Cloud SIEM truly unique. Here's a real world example. This is a global manufacturer who sent more than 10 billion logs and event data to Sumo Logic for a 45-day POV or eval period. Using our Cloud SIEM, during which it automatically ingested and normalized into records with our stream ingest. And it fired 9.8 million signals. And other vendors might refer to that as a notable event. So most traditional SIEMs use correlation rules to get to this point, while other solutions are trying to increase the alert fidelity further, requiring substantial rule stacking and tuning, machine learning, risk scoring. But in general, they stop right here because they do not capture unknown threat patterns. And so ultimately, security teams now need to filter out the remaining alerts and throw level 1 security analysts at the problem for alert triage. But even that can still result in errors and other issues, as well as just taking too much precious time, if you think about it. So Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM solution uniquely provides real automation of security analyst workflows, especially around the triaging and the prioritization of the workflows for the investigation workflows. Our insight engine, it's an adaptive signal clustering algorithm, and we implemented it as a heuristic-based artificial reasoning system. So what that means is every time a rule is going to fire, it creates a signal, and the signal has a unique signature. It references an entity, and a severity score is attached to it. So this insight engine provides a powerful view back in time, not looking at data that's been happening or activities that happened in the last 24 hours or 48 hours, but going back to all signals associated with an entity for up to the last 30 days. And so when our algorithm determines the aggregated risk surpasses a preset threshold, it fires an insight. And that's a structured set of information that's optimized to help accelerate alert triage. And these insights, they represent, in our view, a sophisticated layer of analysis, because the engine allows our Cloud SIEM to both detect advanced threats and low and slow attacks, as well as higher speed direct threats. And on top of this, as I mentioned, we've got this exabyte cloud scale and dramatically improved the signal to noise ratio. In this particular organization, we saw this signal to insight ratio of 56,000 plus to 1. And that really is what whittled it down to 175 insights that we fired. And then ultimately, looking at, there was no action required on 95, 15 were actually false positives. It got them down to the 65 incidents that were critical that they were able to then investigate. And of course, a great question here that we always like to talk to folks about is that, how long would this take you with your current tools, your current team, your current processes that you have in place? In a 2020 State of SecOps and Automation report, 3 out of 4 companies, the IT professionals at those companies, reported they would need 3 or more security analysts just to be able to get to all of the volume of alerts and threats that they're being told. It takes that much time just to be able to get to all of them in a single day. And that's just one day too long. So as you can see, Sumo Logic is automatically detecting and correlating real-time threats and incidents across your on-prem, your cloud, your hybrid data sources. It's so much better if I just show you, right? So let me flip over to another browser tab here where I've got the product running live. And again, feel free to throw in any questions that you folks might have. Just another browser tab. Just happen to be using the Chrome browser if that matters for you folks. This is our heads-up display. And so this entire user interface and user experience is focused on the mindset and the workflows necessary for a SecOps team, for a SOC analyst, security analyst. Of course, you've got SIEM engineers, security engineers working on the background, working in and amongst the rules that we have. More than 600 rules out of the box, ready to go to help just hit the ground running. You can customize the rules any which way you want. And with great features like our rule expression tuning and other variables, you're able to actually modify the rules that we start you out with. And in many cases, it's enough to do all the correlation and the introspection that you need. But when you make your changes, traditionally, they get pretty brittle. And as soon as the vendor sends maybe any updates, it could break those rules for you. And I imagine some of you on the call right now might have experienced that pain. With our approach, we're able to allow you to have that customization and that tailoring of the rules and basically a lot of other aspects of the product to make it fit your current workflows and your stream and process of your detect, investigate, and response process. And so we're able to do that. And when Sumo Logic keeps pushing out updates, and we do it twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, versus some vendors are putting it out maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So these updates are happening. We're able to ensure that you're not going to break, we're not going to change or wreck the expressions and the variables that you've attached and customized to the rules. I figured I better mention that now before I get any deeper in this. into the solution here. There's a lot of information you're looking at here. I totally get it. Let's start in the upper left-hand corner. We know that the system is online. We're looking at our heads-up display, or HUD. We've got a variable amount of time span that we can look at. And sure enough, the entire screen repopulates based on what my time view is. And I don't have to be hitting the refresh button or the space bar. We're constantly pushing and refreshing as the data comes through. 24 hours, 2 days. You'll notice the center insight radar is changing as I do that. You'll also notice that my basically my funnel of fidelity up here on the upper left-hand corner is changing too. So in the last 2-day period, we've brought in structured and unstructured data into the Sumo Logic platform through our stream ingest, automatically normalized and parsed them into our records, and there was 15 million. And that's around an increase of just under a percentage point. And then from that is our rules content engine, which is then taking our out-of-the-box rules or any rules that you create or customize or import yourself. And then we're going to fire what we call signals. And these enriched alerts that we're doing a lot of great stuff in the background. We're automatically tagging with MITRE ATT&CK framework, tactics, and techniques. Great stuff there. And so it looks like it was 1 million signals, which is down about just under 1% from the previous 2-day or 48-hour period. Now, this is, again, what I mentioned before. This is where most SIMs that you're used to using, or even other security analytics tools, will stop. And yeah, that means you'd be having to sort through, filter through, dig into 1 million different signals or notable events or alerts. Well, we go farther than that. We actually are clustering and looking at all those different signals that are attached to a single entity. You might be wondering what an entity is. Well, in our parlance, an entity is any IP address that's unique, MAC address, host name, username, or a custom entity. I mean, you could literally be creating an entity that describes perfectly and embodies your CEO's laptop. And so then you could be literally tracking that device, that down to that physical level of something that's very important to that VIP. And you could actually understand then any threats that are being correlated and attached to that. This is the steel thread that allows us to do what we do with our insight engine by tying it to that entity, by that definition, whatever it may be. And it does change depending on the information that you're feeding into the tool, into the platform. So we look at those, we cluster them, we see when enough risk aggregates to a certain threshold, a certain number, and then we fire an insight. So it looks like we've actually whittled down to 1 million signals in the last 2 days, and we've surfaced 15 insights. Folks, it's our opinionated view of critical incidents that you need your immediate attention on. And so, as you know, for some of you folks, I see our existing customers, thank you for joining. You know the Sumo Logic platform, you know the power of our Sumo query language and our operators and our search query capability. You could dig and look for anything all day long. This is actually serving up on a silver platter the threats, so you don't have to go searching for it. You still can, but this is what we want you to focus on first. And down on the left-hand side here, going down the page, we show additional metrics of those insights. 3 days for detection, 7 hours for response, 14 hours for remediation. And we're tracking that right here within the product based on the activities of your SOC team. Insights by status, you can see which ones are closed, in progress. Custom field, I'll talk about in a bit, and then any that have been closed. And the very bottom is showing those that have been created in red, those that have been closed in white or gray, based on a time span from left to right. You could almost gamify this and throw this up on the SOC wall. Make sure that the CISO, your SOC director, anybody walking through it, and the entire team can collaborate and know really the state or the progress that you're making each and every single day. But I can't avoid talking about the middle. This is the insight radar. This is where we're showing in a blue line, ebbing and flowing as it goes around clockwise from top dead center around the horn. That is the ingest of what's happening with records, shown in blue. These radially radiating bar graphs in this blue cyan color, those are the actual signals that are firing and going out. And then in the center, your eye probably caught on to these triangles, and there's different colors to the triangle. And as I hover, I can see how many different one of these triangles or insights are represented there. Red indicating it's a new insight. Nobody's touched it yet. You might as well get on it. If it's Monday morning at 7 a.m., that might be something, if you're a SOC analyst or security analyst, level 1, level 2, you might want to jump right in on that. Yellow, orange, that's indicating that somebody is already working on it. Okay, I can skip over that one. Green indicates somebody's actually closed it out. Good on you guys. The gamification aspect is you're really just trying to change all the reds to greens, if you think about it in an overly simplistic manner. So let's drill down into what it looks like when you're going to be looking at insights. Again, I wanted to call this demo basically a day in the life of Sumo Logic. This is it. This is your Monday morning. You bring up the insights page, or you could have actually drilled down and clicked on the individual triangles. But I prefer to show folks what this tabular view looks like of all the insights. I've been aggregating in this demo environment more and more insights that aren't being gotten to. So there's 355. But as we saw in that particular time period, I've only got 15. And I can sort and put these in different orders based on when the event times, when they were created, who's been assigned to it, the severity score, confidence score, which I'll mention. And some people love this because you can see the created date, the dwell time of this particular insight, of how this has been brewing, this potential incident. We give it a unique numbering sequence. We also have automatically generated names that are describing the tactics and the techniques that are used. And this ties into our tagging that we have within our signals. So now the insight is automatically created, automatically surfaced, automatically numbered and named, so that it's unique. So you can visually, at a glance, understand what's actually happening here. Oh, command and control with execution exhibited. Okay, I have a severity of a little bit lower. The entity, this whole potential threat, is tied to, apparently, it looks like a user, deb.smith. And I can also see the number of signals. There's 3 signals that generated this one insight. The last activity was about 3 hours ago, so this is pretty fresh. And I also see a little heat map here, a little baseball card style view where I'm seeing the date of what's happening from left to right. And then up and down, I'm seeing the severity level from 0 severity risk up to 10. And of course, I can see these little dots here representing the individual signals that fired. And this is great. I also have the tags here too, indicating the tactics and the techniques. We have this schema built in, both the MITRE ATT&CK framework schema that's pre-populated and automated. You don't have to think about that. But we also have customized schemas. You could be building out your own schema and your own tagging, depending on the entities that you're seeing. Maybe it's you've articulated the types of roles that people have, or the different types of threats that you're focused on, or whether this is a workload or production or back-end system, server or cloud workload, or some other entity or IP address. That allows you then to be tagging this. You can search for tags later and then start to get an aggregated view of where you've seen this before in this particular behavior or through these different tags that you've made. It's obviously a system that's very flexible. And once you start building with it, it stays with you and your team. It helps ensure collaboration. This is a table view of insights. This is a Kanban board view. Some analysts love this, especially those that come from more of the dev world with agile sprint planning. You got your Post-its on the wall and you're just moving Post-its. In this case, you'd be moving insights, whether it's from new to in progress, or maybe these other customized workflow stages. And earlier when I talked about the little white triangles, which would be custom, this is what I mean by that. Email team. Okay, these are things that the email team are working on. Tier 3 analysts. This is probably a bucket of items and insights that are being researched or looked at by your Tier 3 analysts. And it could go on and on. You can just keep inserting more of these, but the flow goes left to right, like your normal investigative workflow, until ultimately it's closed. Now I've got a little filter on here, so I'm actually not showing all the closed insights, because that's a bit of a look back. You always want to look forward, but if you want, it's there. Turn it off. See all 4,213 closed insights and scroll through to your heart's content. But as I mentioned, a day in the life, you're probably focusing on new things that you haven't touched before. So as I scroll through these, I'm getting a sense of different threats that have come through. We're naming them. We've got the tactics involved, the number of signals here. I also want to call your eye to what this global confidence score is. 5, 90, 45, 40, 85. This is basically using our global intelligence service. Our machine learning model is actually looking at anonymous data from other Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM customers. And as the customers, much hopefully like yourselves one day, are closing out insights, and they mark them with a closure code of, it was maybe it was a false positive, maybe it was redundant, or it was closed, and it was closed for these sub technique reasons. You can actually customize that as well. It was closed and we remediated it. It was closed and we've involved the federal authorities or whatever it might be. That allows you then to be able to have that information. And then because the others, the crowd of customers are saying that, yeah, we've seen these signals that made up this insight and this insight was truly bad. Now, when you see that in your own environment, the same signals exhibiting the same behavior, then we're able to apply automatically a level of confidence that that's an actionable, positive threat. So if you're still wondering like, geez, I don't know if I can even get through 15 insights in a single day. Well, then this allows you to then sort through. You can actually be sorting by confidence level and then put and just look at all the 90s and the 85s and the 95s and the hundreds that pop up. In this case, here I'm on one that's an 85. Looks like it's got a duration. It was a 10-minute span where 4 signals fired quickly. Insight 18491. So if I take a look at this is me putting on my SOC analyst hat. I'm a day in the life. I'm in the seat, and I'm coming in here to look at this one particular insight. One insight had 4 signals to it. At the top right here, I can see a timeline view of where those signals were hitting, but based on date and time. The color and shape matters. When I see these blue diamonds, I know that these were rule-based signals, that rules were triggering the signal. But we also have shapes like a teal little swooping circle, round, squared off corner, or tag looking or waypoint looking kind of icon. That is indicating anything that was had anomalous behavior, which is what triggered that particular signal. Purple pentagon, threat intelligence actually triggers those signals. It looks like I've got a couple of those here. So I've got a couple of evidence of blue signals. So I've got some rules that fired. This was a proof point. Threat protection. It looks like there was, let me hover over it here. User received an email with a phishing link, severity of 4. Then it looks like a little bit later, maybe 5 minutes later, we had a severity 3 event, a checkpoint. So the checkpoint firewall system, the threat emulation, saw that a malicious file was let through. So now we've got a score of 4, a score of 3 is 7. Then it looks like we had 2 activities over here that hit. One was a rule, it was CrowdStrike, had a detection summary event of 5. So now we're at 7 and 5 is 12. And then pretty much simultaneously, we got through a threat intel. There was actually a match with a severity of 3. We are over the threshold of 12 now. I believe this is probably set to 12. It is customizable. You working with a technical account manager can adjust that to suit your needs and your sensitivity of when and how quickly you and readily you want insights to fire. But this was the straw that broke the camel's back. These last couple of items here is why we generated an insight. And all of this was attached to an IP address, apparently. So the entity in this case is a particular IP address. I would have to dig down deeper. I could find out more information if known because of other sources like pulling in from AD and any other data source that you feed into our solution to actually get down into that user level and maybe even location level as well. And as I scroll through here, these signals are making up what I just saw as the icons I was hovering over. Here's a lot more information. Here was the proof point that's fired. Here was a checkpoint detection, and then the threat intelligence match. And there's also CrowdStrike had a detection summary event. Each one with the rules of why it triggered. And you can drill down into these signals because now if I realize, okay, this is legit, let's look into what happened here. So why did the checkpoint threat emulation malicious file allowed signal happen? Let me get some more detail. I get the meta expression information. Here's the specific rule in the product, which is why this signal fired. Any insights that might be related or tied into it, and you as a SOC administrator or analyst, you're able to then connect these insights together. You can create incidents on the left over here and add them to an incident. And now you start to actually package out, like especially if it's a cascading issue where one person gets popped and other machines are having other issues, but they're all part of the same root cause. That's how you can have these related insights tied together. Tags are listed here for the different tactics. And then further down, I'm seeing the individual record that made up the signal. And again, this signal was one of 3 or 4 that made up the one insight. So I'm working in reverse now because Sumo Logic has said with Cloud SIEM and our Cloud SIEM Enterprise add-on that, hey, here's an insight you need to worry about. It has 4 signals. Each signal has multiple potential different records. And now I'm down at the record level. I'm digging even deeper here. I notice I'm not using my fingers. I'm not typing in, doing a search command. I can do that in any time I want in Sumo Logic and pipe in any operators that I want. But this is all just surfaced right here in Cloud SIEM Enterprise for me. The source, the destination, details, the ingest source, where it was coming from the checkpoint firewall system, extracted fields and where they live. And some people like looking at the overview view. Others like looking at the full details. You can export the raw log, view it in log search over in Sumo Logic land if you want, or download the file, JSON file, CSV file. Use that in your existing tradecraft or tools that you already are used to or accustomed to using. When I'm done going through all these different signals that make up my insight, it's probably time to respond, right? Take action. Well, you have the option to automatically take actions whenever an insight is fired. And you also have the option to, on demand here, I could click and choose the actions that I want to take. Maybe I'm going to send it off to some previous investments that I've had with SOAR. Maybe I want to send it to our own Sumo Logic Cloud SOAR, if you've invested in that. Maybe send it to Slack. There's some great integrations with customers of ours, like North American Bank Card has actually used Slack integration so that they, right from their devices, from their phones, they can actively be looking at all this information, which is here in Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM, but right there where they're used to working in Slack. Great integration story, so much power, and it starts here. It gets triggered here if you want it to. PagerDuty, ServiceNow with ticketing, bi-directional integration that we've got there. Then when you're ready to actually close an insight, I mentioned earlier about how when you close insights, it actually helps the whole community. And here's why, because when you have a resolution, you're choosing a variety of different resolutions. Was it a duplicate? Was it a false positive? Was there no action needed? Or did you resolve it? And maybe if you resolved it, now you have the ability to have subcategories under all of these. False positive is the parent. You could have a bunch of child-based reasons behind it as to why it was a false positive. Or in this case, when you resolved it, it was category root access. Okay, and when you click that, that chooses the resolution. I could add any other additional comments that I want here. And then I could assign the insight to me. And then I could actually then close the insight if I hadn't already assigned it. This is not assigned to anybody. So that's why it's still trying to say, hey, do you want to take this or not? And when I close the insight, it's closed out. Back under the insights page, you would know then that the insight, if I had clicked yes and agreed to it, my insight 18491, I think it was, would have slipped over here into the closed bucket. And that's it. We're taking what normally would have you consumed time, precious time of 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours to really collect and get all this information. I haven't even talked about the automatic enrichments that we do on the back end with pulling in user information, device information, and even network traffic data with our Zeek network sensor, network monitoring, and all that meta traffic, file carving that you can do using rules from GitHub, YARA rules, basically, if you want to then start to scan those files that you're carving out. So I'm not even scratching that surface about what's also happening under the covers. But the days of having all of your tradecraft and hundreds of browser tabs open and you're trying to keep it all straight and you're writing things down on your notepads of this MAC address and that IP address and doing whois lookups, we're consolidating it all into one place for you. And we're organizing these events and these insights as you move as a team and collaborate from new to in progress all the way to closure. We're getting this down into minutes here, 30 minutes or less. A handful of minutes in a lot of cases as you can process this. You still retain full rights to dig into any signal that you want to. If you've got the time to go through 2,000 signals that apparently are true signals, they have not been suppressed here, I could sort through this. This would be the equivalent of digging through alerts or notable events. And you can absolutely do that if you want to, and then understand what each of those signals are made out of, similar to what I showed you as it was captured in the context of an insight. But this is a quick run through. Again, this is really where I would stop and you having a great conversation with one of our sales engineers or account executives would then begin the process to go even deeper. Because I'm not going to even attempt to cover all of the different examples of how you could be using our product in your own environment. So with that, let me flip back over here and we'll close out this webinar. A couple of other things I want to stress to you folks. The fact that I've been talking about this Cloud SIEM built on a cloud native platform in AWS. I hadn't mentioned that yet. And we've got deployments all across all of their regions here, as noted on the page. This global presence is what allows us to deliver the low latency to wherever your data is stored, along with helping you adhere to your local data residency and regulatory requirements as well. So at this time, let me switch over here. Let me take a look at any questions that have come through. While I do that, feel free to snap this QR code if you'd like with your phone. It'll easily bring up our Cloud SIEM webpage where you can read more about our solution. Okay, at this point, it looks like I'm not seeing any questions, actually. That could indicate that I talked too fast. It could indicate that this is a lot to take in. Or you're probably going to have to decompress or uncompress kind of what you've seen and how that might actually resonate with your team. And I also understand that some of you folks might not even be in security, because Sumo Logic has so many great observability and app modernization and observability and Kubernetes capabilities and traces and events that you can do. I'm only just narrowly focusing in on our Cloud SIEM aspect here. So I realize and appreciate that there is a lot here. And so really, thank you for your time today. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing for our Security Business Unit here at Sumo Logic. Here, if you also want to reach out to sales@sumologic.com or contact your Sumo Logic sales representative or any of our authorized Sumo Logic resellers if you want to have more information and really take it to the next level. So again, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day, folks.